interesting, isn't it? On your own, fire, you get out of there. A group of people, instead of doing what you think is right, you look at what everybody else is doing. Just take the PowerPoint, please. This series is about leadership. And I'm basing it on one chapter of the Bible. You could say an awful lot about leadership. We're looking specifically at chapter 3 of 1 Timothy. And today is called A Good Thing. I'll explain why shortly. But to begin with, I want you to recognise everyone is a leader. Okay? Everyone is a leader. You might not think you're a leader, but you are. If you look at that video, when you're in charge of yourself, you think, well, okay, that's me. But actually, we all influence each other. And one definition of influence, of leadership, is influence. If you're putting an influence on somebody, you are leading them in some way. And you have the opportunity to influence lots of people. You influence your family, you influence your friends, your neighbours, people you work with, if you're in education, the people that you are learning with. You are influencing people. And if you do nothing, they may do nothing. Like the video, there were a load of people who did nothing, and you might think, well, they weren't leaders. Yes, they were. They absolutely were leaders because somebody followed their action, they followed their example. Of course, if you do something, somebody may follow your example. So, you are a leader. Now, I spoke about this at length before. This is a screenshot of our YouTube channel. If you want more information on this, if you go to Hope Community Church Stoke, if you Google that on YouTube, if you Google YouTube Hope Community Church Stoke, or you search Hope Community Church Stoke on YouTube, you will find we have a whole series of teaching playlists. See, it's not a battery issue, that's an interference issue, which is annoying. If necessary, I'll swap to a wired mic. Let's see. One of them is called You're a Leader. Okay? If you want to know more about this concept that everyone is a leader, then go and watch those videos. But this series, we're just talking about 1 Timothy 3. But I want you to be clear, it applies to you because you are a leader. Don't think when I read this chapter out, and well, that's only for leaders, it doesn't apply to me, because everyone's a leader. This is what the whole of the chapter says. Here is a trustworthy saying. If anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, in other words, a type of church leader, he desires a good thing. Now the overseer must be above reproach, the husband of but one wife, temperate, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not given to drunkenness, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own family well, and see that his children obey him with proper respect. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? He must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. He must also have a good reputation with outsiders, so that he will not fall into disgrace and into the devil's trap. Deacons, likewise, that's another type of leader, by the way. Deacons, likewise, are to be men worthy of respect, sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. They must keep hold of the deep truths of the faith with a clear conscience. They must first be tested, and then, if there's nothing against them, let them serve as deacons. In the same way, their wives are to be women worthy of respect, not malicious talkers, but temperate and trustworthy in everything. A deacon must be the husband of but one wife, and must manage his children and his household well. Those who have served well gain an excellent standing and great assurance in their faith in Christ Jesus. Although I hope to come to you soon, I'm writing you these instructions so that, if I'm delayed, you will know how people ought to conduct themselves in God's household, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and foundation of the truth. Beyond all question, the mystery of godliness is great. He appeared in a body, was vindicated by the Spirit, was seen by angels, was preached among the nations, was believed on in the world, was taken up in glory. Okay, we're going to unpack a lot of that over the next few weeks. But today we're talking about a good thing. The first verse of this chapter says, if anyone sets his heart on being an overseer, he desires a good thing. To be a church leader, to be someone who influences within the church setting, is a good thing. Now next week I will expand a bit on the different types of church leaders, about overseers and deacons and different roles and stuff like that. So don't worry about that. Today we're just generally talking about what it means to be a leader. I want you to understand, God uses leaders all the time. The Bible virtually has been running through the entire thing, everything about leaders. You see, God the Father leads us, doesn't he? Fundamentally, we follow God. God is our leader. God the Son, Jesus, he is our Lord. We follow him. And when he came to earth for those 33 years, then in that time, he showed us how a human being should be a leader. Most of the Bible is written through leaders. If you think about the prophets, they were all leaders. If you think about the letters and the Gospels, they were written by leaders. And then the stuff that wasn't written by leaders was written about leaders, mostly. If you look at all the history, nearly all of it is telling you the stories of leaders and how they led people. Good ones and bad ones. Sometimes you read the Bible and you get a good example. Sometimes you get a bad example and you think, right, that's not how we lead. Be clear. God works through people. Read in the Bible again and again. If there is a problem, God speaks to someone and uses them as a leader to guide others. God works through people like you. When I say God works through leaders, and you go, yes, those leaders, but everyone is a leader. So God works through people like you. Why else is it a good thing? 2 Corinthians 4:18 says this. We fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. The truth is, we focus our lives on the things that affect us now. We are far more focused on what's going on in our lives today, what's going to happen to us on the earth. And I understand that. You know, I'm on the earth, so I think about stuff about the earth. And yet, that's all temporary. But there is a future in heaven that you don't see now, which is eternal and far, far more important. We can have an eternal significance. Think about that for a minute. You could be focused on the stuff of this earth, or you could be focused about what you do here that is going to affect eternity. You can change lives. When you do some simple act of service, you can change a life. You can change an attitude. We can grow the kingdom. We can show people what it means to be a Christian, and through doing that, the kingdom grows. And it has an impact on forever. Not just a few years, not just a few people, but on eternity. Now that is a good thing. You also gain eternal benefit. When you're doing these things, you're benefiting others, but you do actually benefit yourself. In fact, later on in the chapter that we're looking at, it said, verse 13, those who have served well gain an excellent standing and great assurance in their faith in Christ Jesus. So there is a benefit for you as you seek to influence and lead people to Christ. 1 Corinthians 3 verses 9 to 14 all puts it this way. We are God's fellow workers. You are God's field. God's building. By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as an expert builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should be careful how he builds. For no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. So let's stop at that point before we carry on. So Paul is saying, I as a leader have come and explained about God to you. And I've laid you the foundation of Jesus. If you build your life on anything else, then you're going to have problems in the long run. You're climbing the ladder, but your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall if you're not climbing your ladder to get closer to God. So Paul says, as a leader, I've given you a foundation to build on. Now it's up to you. How are you going to build on the foundation? If you're a Christian, how are you going to build on the foundation of being a Christian? Are you just going to live life like it doesn't matter? Or are you going to live life like being a Christian affects eternity? Because that's the truth. The verses carry on. If any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, great things, wood, hay, straw, not some things, his work will be shown for what it is. Because the day, that's the day of judgment, will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. You see, the stuff that you're building on this life, some of it, when you get to heaven, will have been a waste of time, and some of it will have eternal significance. So think about it. What's going to matter when you get to heaven? How easy your life is. Is that going to matter? When you've got eternity in heaven, billions upon billions of years with God, with perfection, are any of us really going to worry about how tough a few decades were on the earth? Now, I'm not belittling hardship on earth because it's tough. But when you get to heaven, that's not going to matter. About how much money you make. Do you think we're going to be lining up in heaven and there's going to be line up in order of who made the most money, the people that were rich on earth, you go first? Do you think that's going to happen? Oh, no. Because we work for money here, and yes, it's useful. But at the end of the day, does it matter money you make affect what happens in heaven? How nice your house was? Is that going to make a difference? And yet these are the things that we focus on the earth. And if we put effort into those things, and that is the wood, that is the straw, that is the hay, it is not going to make a difference in the long run. But the gold, the silver, the precious jewels, that is the eternal difference you make to others. Primarily by the way you are able to influence them, by the good that you do, by connecting people with God, making the world a better place. You influence people, and that is a good thing. So I want you all to recognize this. You have an opportunity, whether you call yourself a leader, whether you think of yourself a leader, that doesn't matter. Every one of us has the opportunity to influence others, to connect people with God, to make the world a better place, and in so doing, change eternity for people. That is a brilliant thing. Verse 1 says, anyone who wants to do that, you want a good thing. So, number 1, everyone's a leader. Number 2, it is a good thing if you are leading the things of God. The last point I want to talk about is this. What are church leaders like? What should a church leader be like? Well, I want to say a couple of things. First, anyone could become a church leader. We're already all leaders, but we're not all recognised leaders within the church. If we're talking about a recognised leader, the truth is anyone could become a church leader. Every person in this room has the potential to to be a church leader of whatever level, as we talk about next week. But not everyone is ready to be a church leader. You can all do it, but you might not be ready yet. 1 Timothy 3:6, the chapter that we're studying, has this verse, that the church leader must not be a recent convert. Because obviously if they're a new convert, they're not going to be able to be a good leader yet. So, what I did was this. This week I looked up some job adverts for pastors at the moment. And don't worry, I'm not thinking of leaving. Alright, I wasn't looking for a new job. I know I'm called here, I'm staying here. But I thought this would be interesting. I looked up some job adverts, and all these churches saying, we're looking for a pastor, and this is what we're looking for in a pastor. This is the sorts of things that it said. Someone who's used in spiritual gifts. Someone who has a lot of knowledge about the Bible. Someone who is committed to extended prayer. Someone with a degree in theology. Some people said, you must have a degree in theology. Rule me out, because I don't have a degree in theology. Organisation and administration skills. Inspirational. Visionary. Dynamic. And able to work with all kinds of people. That's like a summary of the sorts of things that you get in the advert for a pastor. Should I be all of that? Well, apart from a degree in theology, because I'm quite knowledgeable in the Bible, then I should be all of that. A pastor, it's great if a pastor has all of those qualities. None of those are bad things. All of those are useful skills and abilities for a pastor to have. But, let's be clear, 1 Timothy 3 does not have stuff like that on the list. You see, we're looking who's going to be a church leader, and we say, oh, look around the church. Who's got great knowledge of the Bible? Oh, who's got some training? Who really prays hard? Who's visionary and dynamic and inspirational? Maybe they could be a leader of the church. You might think, I can't be a leader because I'm not used in spiritual gifts and I don't have a massive knowledge of the Bible and I'm not very great at administration, whatever. You might look at that list and think, well, I can't be a leader because I haven't got those abilities. Well, here's the good news. God is not looking for those abilities. When God is talking about how we look for a leader in church, this is what it says. Roughly. Put some categories together. Someone with a good reputation both in and outside of the church. Someone who is honest, faithful within their marriage and their family. Self-controlled, hospitable, who doesn't get drunk, who is gentle, not violent, not focused on money, who look after their family, who are successful in a small job first and then grow into do more things. Someone who is able to teach. Now those are nearly all not abilities. Those are qualities. That's character. I deliberately put able to teach at the end because that's more of a skill and an ability. But the rest is about character. When God is looking for who is ready to be a leader, he says, someone who's not a brand new convert and somebody like this. That's who God wants to be leaders. So let's just put that to the side and just say a few things about that. I want to be clear, you don't need those things to be a Christian. Someone comes in and they are dishonest. Does that stop them being a Christian? No. Someone's been unfaithful in their marriage. Does that stop them being a Christian? No. Someone who has no self-control, who doesn't get on with people, who goes around getting drunk, someone violent, someone focused on money, they sound like a pretty horrible person. Can they be a Christian? Yes. In fact, Jesus cares more about that kind of person than anybody else. When Jesus came, some of the religious leaders looked at who he spent time with And they said, why, Jesus, do you spend time with those terrible, awful people? And he basically said, because they need me more than anybody else. So, if you look at the list and you think, I don't fulfill everything on that list, I can't be a Christian, I want you to be clear, the exact opposite is true. If you don't have those good qualities, well then become a Christian. Because that's what you need more than anything else. Second thing I want to say about these qualities is, though, they do give you a great life. You don't have to have those to be a Christian, but if you develop those qualities, your life will improve enormously. Now, some people might say, well, that doesn't sound like a great life. I can't get drunk. I want to get drunk. I've got to control myself, can't do what I want. That doesn't sound like a great life. I want to be free. I want to do what I want. I want to make loads of money. I want to be the big man. That's the kind of life I want. You know what? I can understand that. I can understand somebody saying, that sounds like a great life. But to anybody who's thinking that, you're wrong and you know it. And I tell you how you know it. It's because you would hate to have a person like that as your partner. You would not marry someone like that, would you? You would not choose to marry someone who you knew was going to be unfaithful, who couldn't control themselves, who went around getting drunk all the time, who was violent, who was only interested in getting money, who didn't look after their family. You know the kind of person that you want to be in a relationship with, and it's the kind of person God said is looking for in a leader. So, however great the opposite of that might feel like it sounds, everybody knows it leads to all kinds of problems and complications and loneliness in life. But I will say this as well. You don't need them to be a Christian, but you do need them to be a leader. If you become a Christian and you're doing the kind of stuff on the opposite of the top, you're not ready to be a leader yet. There's going to have to be some development before you can be a leader. You don't need to be perfect to be a Christian. You cannot be perfect. But you need to reach a certain level to be a leader. And the higher a leader, the higher a level you will need. Because if you are dishonest and unfaithful and getting drunk, how can you influence people for good? They will look at what you say and they will look at your life and say, that person's not worth listening to. Character is more important than skills. I heard a man called Steve Uncle say something which I found really clear. He says, a leader who has skills but not character is like a supercar with no steering wheel. It looks great, it's got loads of power, it goes really fast, and it can draw attention to itself, and people want to flock to it. But if it's got no steering wheel, I will guarantee you it is going to cause an accident. And when it causes that accident, a lot of people are going to get hurt. And if you've been a Christian for a while, sadly, you will know this to be true. Because you will have seen ministries and leaders and pastors who looked great, and they preached incredibly well, and they were used in spiritual gifts, and you thought that is a great leader, but they have no character. And because of that, ministries fall, churches split, people lose their faith. Character is more important than skills. But all of them can be learned. You can improve in character, you can learn skills by learning, by watching videos. If you are not present here and you're actually watching this on the YouTube series, well there you go, you're doing something to to improve your character and skills by watching this video. By practice, the things that you do help you to learn, to improve your skills, the experiences that you go through. Sadly, one of the most powerful things to help people change is when their behaviour causes them trouble. When people go along and they're not getting into trouble, they do whatever horrible things they like. But when their horrible behaviour leads them into a problem, that's when they think, I need to change. So, experiences. But most of all, as a Christian, the thing that improves your character and your skills is God's help. As you connect with God, He will change you in a way that you cannot change yourself. So, there you go. Those are the things that I want to talk about. So this is what I want you to remember from today's part of the series. First, everyone is a leader. Whether you like it or not, you are a leader. So just think for a minute. How are you a good influence? Think about where you live. Think about who you meet. In what ways are you a good influence? And how could you be better? In the video at the beginning, in the second half, there were 8 people in the room. And when something was happening, they did nothing. And maybe you're in a situation and people are doing nothing. And you need to do something. Maybe it's as simple as that. Stop sitting back doing nothing and start finding ways you can be a better influence. So 1, you are a leader. 2, if you do want to do something to lead in church, whatever level that's at, whether it's helping with the washing up, that has an influence on us. Whether it's greeting people at the door, that has an influence on us. Whether it's teaching the children or the youth, that has an influence on us. Whether it's becoming a teacher, whether it's moving on into senior leadership, whatever level you want to do to go into church leadership, it's a good thing. Because it can have eternal significance and eternal reward. It can affect things like all the usual stuff we worry about has no effect. And lastly, a new Christian should not be a leader. At least not a church leader. You can be, everyone's a leader, but in terms of starting to be a church leader, it's too early. But when can you start developing those characters and skills in order to be a leader? And the answer is immediately. There is nothing to stop you starting to develop character and skills, examining yourself and thinking, how could I be better? How could I change? What do I want to do? If I have a call to do something, who do I need to speak to? If I feel I have a call maybe to be a pastor one day, well, are you reading books on what that means? Are you increasing your knowledge of the Bible? What are you doing to start developing the skills to do the job? Because I'll tell you this for free. You get recognised for what your character is. You can't wait for the position. If you wait, you're going to wait for the position and then you'll start developing character. You will never receive the position. So start thinking about how you need to develop